Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of TV Time with Maggie. I'm Maggie, and this is a very special episode because I have some guests with me. And thank you to the technology of Zoom, we're able to have this larger discussion on Bridgerton. I have with me Sasha, who was my former co-host, and she's always welcome to be my guest co-host on TV Time with Maggie. Sasha.
Hi, everyone.
And then I have Christy and Sherly from Gieketteschat. I always interact with them on YouTube, so I'm going to put their YouTube channel down below. They have a really great content, and we're always having conversations both on YouTube and then outside of YouTube. And I've always been on their channel, so it's really nice to have them on mine. Girls?
Hey everyone! Thank you for inviting us, Maggie.
Of course, we had
yeah.
a really great conversation on the old guard and a couple of other really great action films driven by women. So I'm going to put that conversation below. But we've done a couple of other shows as well, and you ladies just did something for February, I'm guessing for this month of love. It was all about love scenes. And I do have to say, as a lover of horror, there are some love scenes in horror. It's just they always go horribly wrong.
I was trying to look for them too. And I was like, why am I not finding anything? I think I'm just lazy or something. Like, I'm just not looking right. So I was like, damn.
I know the show came out almost 2 months ago in December. But I have to be very honest, when it first came on the queue on Netflix, the first thing I thought about, this is another show about a white privileged young woman who falls in love with someone who works for her family because the actor is Black. And I just never like, and this is really bad, but my reaction was this is someone of a lower standard class because this is a Regency period kind of drama. So of course, I've never seen like Black royalty in this context. Like if we were talking about the continent of Africa or the fictitious Wakanda, for example, yes, there will be obviously royalty. But in this context, I've never seen it. Have you ladies ever seen anything like this before?
No. We were shocked too. We were like,
Yeah.
This is new. Shonda Rhimes kind of decided to take us on a ride.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The people from the production side decided, okay, this is a period drama that all of the parts were white, basically. And Sasha can speak to this just because she read the books, but I don't feel from what I've gathered, the actors, it's not like they changed the character completely. They're the same characters, they're just portrayed by actors of color, particularly Black.
For the most part, they've taken some aspects and changed them completely, but for the most part, those characters are similar to their book characters.
Right before this, I was reading how the white actor who plays Anthony, one of the oldest brothers, he was originally going to be Simon. So it wasn't like they just automatically had Simon as a Black character. Before we start talking a lot about the series, I wanted to talk a little bit about the alternative history that we have here, because Queen Charlotte was real. And there was this huge debate of whether or not she had Black ancestry. And in this show, we imagine as she did, it wasn't debated. And she utilized her position of power to then lift up other people of color. What did you guys think about that? Was that like, what, first of all, was it surprising? Did you guys look up the Queen after learning about this show or anything?
Sure. Actually, like I didn't watch the show. I heard from people before I watched it that, oh, Queen Charlotte, she's a Black woman and she's actually real. And I was like, oh, because I love history. And so I was like, all right, I'm looking this up. And I looked it up and yeah, I was like, wow. And I wasn't shocked because even though movies say otherwise, like, you're right, like you watch like Pride and Prejudice and all that stuff, and it's mostly just white people, and you're like, okay, there were Black people. Like, Where were they at?
I found, like, I looked her up after the show and I realized that she may have had Black ancestry. But also what took me out of it a little bit is that in the books, there is no queen. Like, the queen has nothing to do with it. They just kind of inserted her there, maybe for dramatic effect, but like, they don't even mention the queen in the book. So I think she was like a welcome addition because she
Yeah.
adds some flair to the show.
Even though there's still debate about it, there's significant evidence that she was descendant from a Black family. But I also feel like the show, or like the character itself, even though she knows this about herself, it wasn't like she was like rah, like, take over, which is this kind of random fear that particularly like white people will have about it. But she was lifting up other people, and she was like, we can all just contribute to this, like, we don't have to make a big deal about this, like, everyone can own land, everyone can own a business, and we can kind of go our merry way. However, in the show, what I really enjoyed was the fact that Lady Dari and a couple of other people, they did mention, they're like, oh, I'm sorry?
Lady Danbury?
Danbury.
Yeah.
She mentioned it. Her and Simon's father, there was a couple of scenes where he mentions, like, we have to be, that whole thing of like, we were given this opportunity and we have to do better and we have to be the best in the society because of that opportunity.
What caught me the most about the moment when Lady Danbury tells Simon, like, uh before we were two societies and now we're like kind of together, was the fact that it seems like the dukedom of Hastings was something that they got before Charlotte, because Charlotte seems relatively young compared to the fact that Simon's father wanted the line of Hastings to keep going. It felt like he had been a duke, his father had been a duke. Like, I feel like we should have seen more of like the correlation between her and the actual appointing of titles, because it feels like these people were in these titles for longer than Queen Charlotte was.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be interesting to see the before. The only thing is that I know, according to what I read about, like, the some of the influences behind the show, was that in real life she was 17 when she married and she had 15 children. So I'm guessing by the point that we see her, it's been a while, because we don't really see her kids. Her kids are kind of like gone, and she's young but older, and so if she's been in that position for, let's say, 20 to 30 years, she might have done something prior. I want to quickly point out about colorism, because this is something that we struggle in all culture, but predominantly cultures of people of color, as Latina, as people that have Black descendants. We see even the actors that they chose to be in the position of power, and even the queen, right? The queen, even though she's Black, and if you see portraits of her in real life, she has what we would consider to be like Black features, but her skin is lighter. So the queen, the actress who plays the queen, the actor who plays Simon, they're in positions of power, and then we see that Simon has like a butler, and he's a darker skin, and he's still. I mean, his dad was a darker skin too, but I was just thinking, putting that out there.
I was noticing that a lot of the characters who weren't the leads were darker skinned.
Yeah.
And it just kind of throws you off when you see, like, the leads being of light skin and then everyone else who's not in a position of power to be darker skinned.
Especially with like we see his Simon's friend, I can't remember his name, the boxer.
Yeah.
He's
Yes.
darker skin as well. So it's like everybody who's of I would say like a lower class standing than the royalty are like dark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, and they don't also, I can't pinpoint if this was before slavery was abolished in the US. I think this is 1813. If in the time period. So when I saw, and I think this is one of the points that I made for our discussion, I put Black servants equals slavery question mark, like was there still slavery? Like it wasn't acknowledged. And I don't know if the intentions of the producers and the creator, and also like Shonda, was to, this was normal and no talk about it, or like kind of like color blindness, or we didn't really get to like really find out like what exactly was there was alternative history, but it wasn't, like Sasha mentioned, like we didn't know what happened before. We were just thrown into the romance, which is great because we should normalize, having people of color in these types of positions in these types of genre, but still there was something missing. Did you guys feel that?
Yeah, and I think it was a really missed scene, because I think that scene between Simon and Lady Danbury, there was a great opportunity to really delve into that topic on a bigger scale and touch on the fact that what was happening with slavery, or was it still during that time? Because I actually don't know the date in which it ended in England. And also, just speaking to their community in general, like during the Regency time.
And also no one said anything about interracial relationship. It was more of like a business arrangement than anything else. Like no one cared that Simon was Black and he was dating a white girl, and she was going to basically inherit the fortune of this Black man, or that he was going to be part of her white family. Like no one mentioned that either.
I was talking with a friend like a few weeks back about Bridgerton. I was trying to convince her to watch Bridgerton pretty much. And she brought up this concept that it tends to be like in Shondaland dramas, you always see like a light-skinned Black man with a white woman as one of the major romances. And I was just like, damn, Shonda's at it again.
That is so.
That is true.
That is true. That happened in How to Get Away with Murder.
I think that's feeding into the media, and I'm sorry to say that. I don't want to say that, but I feel like, is she feeding into the media? Is she giving what the audience what they want to see, or what the media wants to see? And really, what we really want to see is a diverse leads, like true,
people that don't actually get representation.
Representation, yeah. Why is she putting out something like Bridgerton? She's making it diverse, but still there needs to be more to be told. There needs to be some more truth to it, and as far as representation goes.
I mean, it might be just in terms of like the industry. There always has to be, things have to be palatable to white people, and so there has to always be something that they can say, this is me. If you don't have that, then you're not going to make the show. It doesn't matter what everyone else thinks. This is why when for Mulan, for example, people even wrote a petition about it because they wanted to make her love interest a white man. And we were like, that makes no sense. Where would this guy would come from? And they were actually making legitimate efforts to create a different story so that they could be space for that white man to come in and be Mulan's love interest. And so this happened also with Hamilton, when they put a casting that said, no whites or something like that. And people riled up about that. And I think that is still like, it's great that Shonda is making all of these strides, but I don't know if it's more because she's making these strides because she's making it little by little, she's, and I don't know if somebody else might come along and and just kind of say no. Because even in Latino driven shows like Gentified, we still have someone who is a Latina but who's of darker skin not having as much of an opportunity as the other people. So even in shows with people of color, there's still there's a little something about it that you feel it's not accurate or complete, and it has to be, again, palatable to the people that are putting up the money, I guess. Let's talk a little bit about Marina and the other young women of the show. Marina was an unwed mother, and that was a huge no-no back then.
I think they did her a disservice by like making her do this whole plot to trick Colin. I feel like they could have handled it a different way. Of course, her ending where she ends up going off
with the brother,
her baby father, with the brother. That I feel like we're never gonna hear from Marina ever again after this season. But I also like bringing it back to the book. She's not even a factor in the book.
Really? Because I really want to see more
I
of
actually
her,
wanted
because
to
she's
see-
the only person of color who is young, right? Or younger.
So
yeah.
I think so.
That like is, you know, a girl who is out in society. So
When she first came around, I thought that they were going to bring up the fact that, oh yeah, she's our cousin, but she's our Black cousin from the countryside, right? That was kind of like what they were talking about. And then it turned into, she was almost a little bit, I felt, fetishized, because every guy in town wanted to be with her. And then all of a sudden she's like, well, I don't even like any of you guys. I have this other boyfriend who also happens to be white, by the way. And the fact that she was even tricked into thinking that he didn't love her. She is the only Black young woman in the society that we see, and she's the unwed mother one. Like there was like a couple of things with Marina. What did you guys think of Penelope and the fact that she basically outed her secret out of pure frustration that she couldn't get Colin? Because I was very upset with that. I felt like Penelope had a little bit more sensibility.
Yes, I actually loved like how they cared about each other, and then that whole plot, and then Marina trying to trick Colin, and then Penn, her name's Penn, right? Penn, and and they had that friendship, and then it was just all crumbling for the guy. I was like, no, and then she like was giving away the secret. I was like, oh, that hurt me.
I feel like they should have written it in a way that Penelope did not out Marina. Like she got outed in some other way. Like somebody maybe like saw her getting a doctor's appointment or something. Because like I even didn't like the fact that we outed Penelope as Lady Whistledown at the end of the series. Like I think they shouldn't have done that.
I mean, in Gossip Girl, we had to stake out the entire show to really get confirmation of who we thought it was. And there was this another young lady, I forgot her name, but she was a friend of Daphne, and they were kind of competing to a certain degree with I think his name was Philip, the queen's nephew. And the other young woman kind of got him, but then Daphne was like, well, if Simon, I'll just rather go get this prince or whatnot. And then they started kind of competing against each other. And there was a very subtle line that they were talking about how they were friends when they were younger. And then once they started coming out as ladies of the society, then their friendship turns into rivalry. And I wanted to bring that up because I feel that a lot of young women, we all kind of start out as like, we have this potential to have like these great friendships, but in society, sometimes we're given so little opportunities that once we get these opportunities, instead of doing what the queen did, which was lift up other people, we actually start competing with each other, not just in school, but predominantly for us who are a little older in the job in the job marketplace. So what did you guys think about that transition?
Like me and my sister were talking about this, how like there's a lot of women in higher positions that sometimes actually, most of the time, sometimes like don't help other women get there. Because I think we were talking about this, like they feel like they work so hard, like you can do it too. Look what I had to do. Now you do it by yourself, which, you know, and you know, and they have to fight against the patriarchy of like men. I'm sorry, I'm saying that word wrong and stuff like that. But you know, they have to look as like a certain way in society, and they want to keep that position. So they're not going to help other women because they had to do it by themselves. Like I said,
it's not just the man, it's what the men represent, right? It was like security, it was having a house, having children, stability. So they're competing for these things that are supposed to just be granted to them as just human beings, but they couldn't get it without this man, this one person. The cool thing I thought was the relationship between the mother of the Bridgerton family and then Lady Danbury, because they were older women. Obviously, we had the Penelope's mother. She was a little different because she was very much like the lady from the Jane Austen Pride and Prejudice novels, where she was really rooting for her daughters to almost save their family. But between Lady Danbury and the mother of the Bridgerton clan, they were older women that had been through all of this stuff already, and they were able to have this kind of super nice relationship, even though they were trying to get their kids together. I never saw them as competitive or mean to each other. There was like some sort of camaraderie there that I really enjoyed, and it made me feel like after you hit a certain age and you start really thinking about priorities, and obviously at that time after they had their kids, let's say, and they're settled, it's kind of like they can reconnect and be like, oh, we're human beings and we need each other and we can advise each other on certain things. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but I love Lady Danbury and the fact that she didn't have no man, no kids, no nothing. She was just there with her little cane, just like, hey, I'm here.
I love her costume.
Speaking about women's role in the society and the competitiveness and all of this, is the lack of sexual education and the lack of conversations among women, and then also mother and daughter. The only women that I felt like knew a little bit more were women that were in the society considered to be morally loose, and to us they were kind of like the heroine. They were both business and like entrepreneur women, and it was the opera singer, I forgot her name right now, and then also the modiste.
I think it's Sienna.
Oh, Sienna.
And I forgot the modiste name.
Right,
it was like Genevieve or something like that.
Genevieve, yeah. So they both, you know, had a line where they were like, well, we had to make it on our own.
They gave, for me personally, that gave the story a little bit more weight, as far as like we weren't just seeing about, you know, rich girls trying to get husbands and stuff. And
yeah,
it's a shame though that they kind of look down in society in a sense that they have no power. You know, they can't have access to men of power either. And if they do have access, it's hidden. So that kind of bothered me, but I could see how that could be definitely something that probably happened back in the day. But yeah, I really thought that I want to see more of their story, you know, because I'm like, why are they like going hard on this opera singer? Yo, she's an opera singer, yo. What's good?
Yeah.
I mean,
that she would have like a higher standing, like she could get a powerful man.
They made their own way, as they were saying. And I was like, wow, how they don't have more power? They didn't need a man and stuff. But I guess that's the thing, you know, because they didn't need a man. So that's why they looked down upon, right?
What are your final thoughts on the show? I definitely like the fact that it opened up these kinds of discussion. It opened up a genre, which is like, this is historical fantasy and fiction, where we see people of color being and doing something else. It reminded me of Kehinde Wiley's paintings, where he portrays a lot of like people of color, particularly Black people, in like royal garbs.
Mm.
But and I love the soundtrack. That's kind of like what introduced me to the show. But I definitely would love to have seen some sort of like prequel and see a little bit more about Lady Danbury and Queen Charlotte. What did you ladies, what are your final thoughts on the show?
To be honest, a lot of the episodes were really long for me personally. I think it's just my attention span. I don't know what it is, but they were like, it was like an hour and I was like, oh my God. And sometimes I felt like they were repeating itself with the show in the sense of the topic. Ooh, like they're coming in and out. And so, but yeah, I love the diversity, but I wish there's more diversity in the sense of who the leads are, with, of course, darker skin, but also darker skin Black people, but also like other diversities with like Asian, because we saw Asian people, but they were like in the background. They didn't have
speaking. That's true.
Not that I thought like it was a bad show. I just like, I saw it on Christmas Day and I was like, do I really want to watch this? And then a few weeks later, after I saw like, 63 million households had watched it, I was like, maybe there's something to this. I do find like I'm looking forward to what they're doing season 2.
And hopefully they will brush or would take the opportunity to speak a little bit more about certain topics like abuse and consent instead of brushing it off. I want to say that it was also, if I were to argue as to why they did it, I would want to say that is because they didn't, even though they knew that what she did was wrong, it wasn't 100% clear, and they kind of just moved past it. Neither of the character also knew what that was, or like what exactly. I want to say,
I don't know. I hope, like you said, I hope they get into those conversations more.
Yeah, definitely.
The reason why they didn't get into the whole topic of like consent and the fact what Daphne did to Simon, because people usually brush that off. Like, they tend to not think of that as, like, we know it's sexual assault, but people tend to brush that off and not see it as sexual assault, so they didn't treat it as anything serious, because honestly, society doesn't treat it serious.
I felt the same way. I felt like they didn't even had, if we were to argue, they didn't even really have the vocabulary to actually express what it was, because Daphne didn't even knew what was happening before. And I do think that even though Simon knew more about it, he related it more to the fact that he was also very much someone else took control of his life when he was younger too, and this is again another person kind of taking over, making a decision for him that he didn't want to make. With any show, no matter how frivolous or superficial it may seem, there's always a topic or something in the society that they're portraying that reflects back on us, and as the consumers of this, and as the people who are producing media in any sort of way, to keep in mind these topics, especially for young people too. So thank you so much for coming by, and everybody, I'm going to put links down below to Christy and Sherly's channel, and also Sasha's website, so you guys can follow, like, subscribe, and follow, like, and subscribe to my channel as well. and follow PinkLeo _productions on Instagram for more content. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Sasha.
so much.
Thank you.
This was great.